Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Congratulations, you're working on your personal growth and wellness today. I welcome you to today's session on advanced wellness strategies for home and work. What an unbelievable topic, right? The timing is perfect because some of you, like me, you may have spent yourself and your year in a little bit of, in a little bit of a quarantine in a new place, and you're trying to do your job, manage the stress, the obligations that you have with the kids or the family or the business. Try to find that sense of happiness and joy and creativity in life. But it's also a really difficult time sometimes to do all of that when the world is in total chaos and turmoil, when multi-billion-dollar companies are trying to steal your attention and compare you to other people. And so today's topic, I think you're going to find not only timely, but something that will help holistically address so many of the challenges we all face in living a vibrant, a connected, and a meaningful life. If you're new to GrowthDay, you might not know that I always kind of talk about this triangle, and this triangle that what we're all really after, after we have some security or a roof over our head or some food in the pantry is, we all want a sense of aliveness. We want that joy, that enthusiasm, that sense, that joie de vivre. We all want connection, and that connection is your relationships and how you feel connected to other people, connected to your family, connected to even yourself. We want meaningful pursuits, the ability to do things that matter to us, that draw our interest or our passion or our obsession or enthusiasm. And right in the middle of that whole triangle, growth, which is what we are here to do today. This topic, man, I'm so happy to see so many of you here right now. This is awesome. I'm just so excited to see you guys here because this topic, a lot of people get wrong. I'm going to start with a simple statement. I'll tell you what we're going to do here today, especially for those who are new. I'm going to start with a very simple statement. I know when I talk about wellness, often people separate wellness in this little category. Oh, that means health, or that's nutrition, or that's meditation. And they kind of feel like, oh, I'll get there. One day I'll be healthy. And I'm always telling people, wellness is not separate from your work day. Wellness is not separate from your life. Wellness is not something you do once in a while or you have once in a while. Wellness is your experience of life. Wellness is your experience of life in this moment. It was your experience of life this morning. It's your experience of life the last week or last 2 weeks. It's not this little thing over there that once in a while you have your kale shake, or you have, your keto diet, or you get to that gym, once, 3-4 times a week. Those are practices. And I'm going to share with you tons of practices today that I know you will love. But wellness is our experience of life. And when we can look at it that way, things start to really shift in, once in a while I do wellness versus how am I being, feeling, and experiencing life. That's how I think of like my wellness practices, or when I teach wellness to corporations or teach it to you guys in our high performance work. It's always more of a holistic approach because I really believe we want to feel. We want to feel the day. If something is off in your life, it's because you don't feel like you're feeling the day with the emotions and the energy that you want behind it. So today, I've got all my cards to share with you today, some advanced practices that have really served me, but also the mindset of wellness, the experience of wellness. What does that look like? And I know, listen, as soon as you start talking about wellness, people often say, well, is this about losing weight? Or is he going to tell me I'm too fat? Is he going to tell me I need to get off the couch or stop eating, the Cheetos? I promise this is not a preaching session. This is a session hopefully meeting you where you're at. And I've always had to do that in my private coaching with our clients. I have to do that with you guys as our students. I have to do that with myself. There's different times in your life where wellness feels different and looks different. Sometimes when you're youthful and young and you just felt awesome all the time, it didn't matter if you pound down like 7 tacos and 4 beers in one night. Okay, well, maybe it did, but you could get away with that the next 2 days because your classes didn't start till 11 a.m. Or, you had times in your life where you could get away with bad energy. You had times in your life where the energy was more abundant because that age or that health state that you were in at that time. But you and I both know there's sometimes it ain't so good. It's like you're trying everything and you feel like crap and you don't know why. You're doing what they say. You got your yoga mat, you're following this wellness person, you're doing your Headspace or your Calm or your tapping solution app. You're doing all the things, but you still feel like crap and you don't know why. That is the challenge of the wellness journey. I certainly know that. Many of you guys have been with me for a long time. I've been blessed to teach personal development now, essentially for 25 years, only full-time for the last, 17 years. And, full-time the last 15 years. And in that journey, I've had to be on stage teaching to hundreds or thousands of people who paid a lot of money to be there. And I would feel like crap backstage. I was tired. I was fatigued. I didn't feel my body right. I was stressed from business. I was stressed from family and the finances and all the obligations that fell on my shoulders. There's been times just like you when you're in that roaring stage of your career where things are going great, but you don't feel great. There's also been times, many of you guys were with me in 2011 when I had my brain injury. And that took me on a whole new wellness journey because at that point I was a high performance guy. I had really gotten my mind, my body, and my spirit, my work and family. I'd gotten kind of like in alignment, if you will. I was in the zone for a series of years. I was feeling good. And then on a trip with some friends, I wrecked an ATV, a 4-wheeler. And I rolled several times and I snapped my wrist off, broke my ribs, threw out my hip, my shoulder, and ended up with a traumatic brain injury. And that opened a whole new world of learning for me to understand my brain and to heal my physical body. I know many of you have been through those situations, and many of you right now, you're dealing with sickness in your life or your family. You're dealing with, an optimized, a non-optimized body, and you just feel awful. Or you recently got hurt or sick. And listen, recovering from that, that's real. And so we'll talk about some of those recovery routines. We'll talk about some of those new ways to think about your mind, your body, your brain, your spirit. Today's a good discussion. It's a really good discussion. We're going to start with the most simple thing I want you to write in your journal and fill out, which is this. Wellness to me is ... What does wellness mean to you? Whenever I teach a topic, I always encourage the audience, define it for yourself. Because if you don't define it for yourself, how are you ever going to align with it, achieve it, manifest it? Some people say, I want to be successful, Brendon. I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, I don't know. Money? It's like, what does it mean to be successful or confident? You have to define those things. What does happiness mean to you? We'll talk about that today. But wellness, what does it mean to you? I really want you to think about it. What does wellness mean to you? When you have full or holistic wellness, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Maybe what you can do in your journal right now is just wellness to me is, and then just write down some words that come up to you. Wellness to me is what? Just write down one word. Wellness to me is health, fitness, resilience, peace, purpose, happiness, aliveness. What is it for you? Just take a moment right now. I'm going to walk you through my personal definition of this and then share some ideas that maybe you can put into play in your home, in your work life. So wellness to me is, here are my keywords and my practices. Number 1, wellness to me is happiness. If I don't feel happy on a consistent basis, I know I'm not on my A game in terms of my wellness practices. To me, they go hand in hand. Wellness and happiness. They're not separate. They're not different. They are the same thing in many ways. If I'm not happy, I know my wellness practices are off. So let's talk about some of these ideas for happiness. Okay, for me, the first thing of my wellness practice and what makes me a happy dude. Like if you met me, you'd be like, God, that guy is annoyingly happy a lot. If you've been to my seminars before and you see me go for 4 days, 9 hours a day often on stage by myself, people are like, how does he have that much energy? It's because I have the ultimate secret to happiness. And we have the ultimate secret to happiness. I'm telling you, you feel well. So what is my ultimate secret to happiness? The first thing is having reverence for life. And then practices that make me feel that, So many of you know, 25 years ago, this month, 25 years ago, this month, I had the car accident that made me, as a young man, finally appreciate life and really want to live it and explore it and feel it and love it and connect with people. I was a broken down, super sad, unwell young man who was depressed and suicidal. And then the car accident knocked some sense in my head, and in my head, it made me realize I want to live this life. I don't want to take my life. From that day forward, for the last 25 years, I can tell you, I have felt happy every single day for 25 years. And my unfair advantage of that isn't because I have this perfect life and nothing bad ever happens, OMG, it's because I make myself feel happy every day by reminding myself of the blessing of this life. So those practices, what does that look like? Well, it's simple practices of in the morning, Wayne Dyer taught me, wake up, swing your legs over, put your feet on the ground, say thank you, thank you, thank you. Another day alive, another opportunity to change, another day to grow. Thank you for this opportunity to serve today. Let me live this day with intention and focus and joy. Oh, please allow me to feel the sense of aliveness. And I just start the morning with a sense of joy and luck and honor and privilege to be alive, to have the breath. I would say, if you have reverence for life, everything else feels and looks good. When you forget the gratitude of the extraordinary blessing and the incomprehensible unlikeliness of your survival in life right now, the odds of the universe of you being here, this little speck amongst the cosmos, is so profound that when you have deep reverence, which is respect, honor, appreciation, a sense of humility and thankfulness that you are alive, everything else flows from that. People are like, you're so vibrant. I'm like, have you ever seen my mom? If you ever met my mom, she is so happy to meet you. She is so happy to be alive. She's had perspective. She's been in a war. She grew up in war in Vietnam. She was the child of a soldier who was lost. So she was in a child recovery program. She was shipped to another country where she didn't know anyone and didn't want to live, separated from her family. She had to immigrate to the United States under dire conditions. She met her first husband, who was not good and was abusive. She went out and struck out on her own. She eventually met my father, who'd also been through a huge difficulties in his life, growing up super poor and having just spent multiple years, 3 tours in Vietnam, and got all shot up over there. My parents were happy people. They didn't have a lot, but they were grateful for life because they saw people die. They were grateful for life, and that reverence was something that was just palpable in my household. And I know I was lucky for that. A lot of people didn't luck out on getting great parents. I had good examples to that. And that was good. But like I said, later on, I became depressed because sometimes, when you don't have good relationships, which we'll talk about in wellness, it's hard to be happy, even if you should. But I tell people all the time, if the umbrella of reverence for life is not there, if a deep gratitude, appreciation, and thankfulness for whatever you call it, for God, for life, for cosmos, for universe, for dang crazy genetic luck that you emerged and have life, if you don't have that, I promise your wellness journey will never feel vibrant. I promise you can eat all the energy, foods and supplements. You can, take care of yourself. I know a lot of people who are super fit and healthy and miserable because they don't appreciate their life. They don't keep perspective that this journey is going to end super quick for them and all of us. And so wellness and the real journey to wellness begins with reverence for life, deep gratitude, deep thankfulness, deep humility and honor for life. That's my ultimate secret. Like, how are you so happy? I'm like, I ain't dead. If you're alive, oh my gosh, and you can feel that, then you can tune into your breath and feel the sensations around your body. If you can sense and feel throughout the day, all of your senses, and take in the wonders of the world, even if it's like a concrete city, or you're out on, I happen to be on the beach, or I grew up in the mountains, or I can get outside and see some nature, or I can just remind myself of how big this earth is and how lucky I am to be one of the 7+ billion people. It's impossible to fathom your blessings. And I know when you say that to people in today's world, they're like, oh, sure, you can say that because you're privileged. You can say that because you're lucky. You can say that because you made your dreams, or you have money, or you are this, or you are that. And what they're doing is they're casting out to the world their perspective that says, you don't understand me. So all those things you have, it's unfair. And that's a real quick way to feel miserable, which leads me to my second point, happiness. What are my happiness practices? Well, when I told you, I wake up, I feel reverence to life. I pray, I meditate throughout the day, and those little simple check-ins of appreciation to God. It might be your gratitude journal. At the end of the night, you log into GrowthDay, you type in your journal, all the things you are grateful for. You must consistently, and every single day, you must capture the sense of joy, the moments that mattered, the little things and events that made you grateful or appreciative. If you don't capture them, you don't feel them. And what happens is your attention goes to everything else. So my first practice of wellness is reminding myself to be happy that I am alive. But the second one I was talking about, where it's easy for people to cast and go, oh, you're so lucky, or you're so privileged. And by the way, we all are. That's part of reverence for life. I'm like, when people are like, you're so lucky, I'm like, yeah, totally. Well, you don't understand. I've been through this. I'm like, I don't understand. I haven't been through that. Tell me about it. I really believe we can learn from one another. We can understand one another's pain. We can explore relationships and conversations of empathy and compassion. And that's a practice in recognizing where people are unhappy and where they are angry, and recognizing that that's okay too. And sometimes when we're most angry, we're out of our reverence for life. When we're most upset, we're out of our gratitude. When we hate on other people, we lost perspective of the uniqueness of this oneness journey we're all on, where we got to breathe this morning.
This is one of my favorite topics. We're in trouble as a society. So we need to understand what our brain is listening to and change it. So I wanted to start with a story. I have been blessed this year. Dr. Phil really understands my work. I've been on his show 7 times this season. And he says, if you don't understand the brain, you don't understand the person. Well, about a decade ago, we did a show together on compulsive cheaters. And Jose had cheated on his wife 8 times in 4 years that we know about. And his wife had a gun and she was going to shoot him, and it was perfect for Dr. Phil. And when I scanned Jose, this is a SPECT scan. SPECT is the study we do at Amen Clinics. He's got low activity in the front part of his brain. So this is a big part of the focus area of your brain. And those holes means he's got really sleepy frontal lobes. So he's easily distracted, disorganized, short attention span. And he was excitement seeking. And for whatever reason, Jose and I, we really came to love each other, and he did everything I asked him to do. I love that because it works. What we did was we got very clear on his goals, but not work, relationships. What do you want? He wanted to be married because he didn't want his daughter growing up in a broken home like he did. With work, and he was working in a tattoo parlor. He wanted to be better. With his money, there's always a problem. With his physical, emotional, spiritual health. So we do goal setting in the 4 big circles of your life: your brain, your mind, your relationships, and your soul. Why do you care? And then I taught him these 2 words. These are the most important 2 words in the English language when it comes to your health. Then what? If I do this, then what happens? If I say this, then what happens? And then we worked on all 12 of the steps. So that was his scan before. 7 months later, his brain was better. He hasn't cheated since. We're at a decade. And oh, by the way, he went to nursing school, then he went to nurse anesthetist school, and he's making like 200 grand a year. And his children are not being raised in a broken home, which is his goal. So step 1, you got to know your goals. But too often people think of this as work related. And I'm like, no, that's how you burn out. They need to be relationships, work, money, physical, emotional, spiritual health. What do you want? So that's step 1. Step 2, you got to get your brain right. If your brain's not right, you're not right. And it doesn't matter if you do anything else. With a healthy brain, you're happier, you're healthier, you're wealthier, you're more successful. Why? Because you make better decisions. Ultimately, it's the quality of your decisions, moment by moment, over time, that determine your happiness, your health, your wealth, and your success. Over the years, I've been able to boil down brain health into this very simple phrase. If you want to keep your brain healthy or rescue it if it's headed to the dark place, you have to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors that steal your mind. Blood flow is just critical. The number 1 brain imaging predictor of Alzheimer's disease is low blood flow. And basically it comes down to this question: is it good for my brain or bad for it? And if you can answer that question with information and love of yourself, love of your family, love of your mission, you do the right things. Step 3 is you have to know your brain type. Everybody's got a different brain. And I've had 2.5 million people take our online questionnaire. It's called our Brain Health Assessment, brainhealthassessment.com. And you'll know, are you a balanced brain type, spontaneous? That's really my ADD group, short attention span, distractibility, restlessness, impulse control. It's important to get it treated. Doesn't necessarily mean medicine, but medicine for some people is life-changing. But I have strategies for each of these types. The persistent people are the OCD people. And if you have ADD, I watched the chat. A couple of people go, ADD and creative, and that is absolutely true. The sleepier your frontal lobes, the more outside of the box thinker you are, but don't hire the ADD person to be your executive assistant. They will make you crazy. You hire the persistent people and the cautious people to be your assistant, because they will follow through on what you need to get done. The sensitive types or our empathic or empath people, they can struggle sometimes with negative thoughts. The cautious people are anxious. But if you know your type, you can then take the supplements or sometimes medication to help balance your brain. Step 4, you want to lock up the distractions. And I love this quote. The best way to reduce stress in your life is to stop screwing up. And how do you make better decisions? Well, you know your motivation. You put those words up. You have to have a stable blood sugar, which means you need to eat to stay focused. I love this study they did at Emory University where they took 107 married couples, tested their blood sugar at the end of the day, and then gave them voodoo dolls. And they asked them to express their feelings about their partner with the pins in the dolls. And the people who had the lowest blood sugar levels had more than twice the number of pins in the dolls. So if you get hangry, that eating protein and healthy fat at every meal helps to balance your blood sugar and your attention and helps to protect your loved ones from your hangriness. 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Sleep is absolutely essential. Little to no alcohol. I'm not a fan of alcohol. Ever since I started looking at the brain in 1991 and I saw the damage it did to scans, I have been railing against it, and it's not gotten me a lot of fans. Healthy vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids. All of you on this call, you should go to the lab and get your vitamin D and omega-3 index taken. I actually think most people should be taking 5,000 international units of vitamin D a day and 2,000 units of omega-3 fatty acids. But you got to get your nutrients right. You also want to avoid trigger foods that steal blood flow to your brain. Did you know that gluten decreases blood flow to the brain? It gives you brain fog, and dairy insensitive people as well. Surround yourself with like-minded people. People are contagious, like COVID. And if you're around people that are constantly poking and distracting you, you need to put your phone on airplane mode. So dopamine is made deep in the brain in an area called the VTA, or ventral tegmental area, also an area called the substantia nigra. It works in this very interesting area called the striatum. And this is, think of it as the pleasure center in the brain, and it activates your frontal lobes. So dopamine has two pathways. One, it helps you feel awesome, but it also helps you focus. And so you never want to wear out your dopamine neuron.
Advanced wellness, right, in work and life. This has been a part of my fascination, my exploration, my kind of reason for being for my entire adult life. As a kid, I actually trained until I was probably 18 year round as a competitive gymnast, and absolutely destroyed my body. And now at 55, like I'm learning that, there's this lifelong commitment that we all make to feeling good. And sometimes when we go really hard early in life, because we're invincible, we have that mindset where we're like, we can do anything. And yes, it may hurt, or I may be injuring myself, but I'll get over it. And then you get into your 20s and then you get into your 30s and you're kind of like, so the getting over it part isn't happening quite so quickly. And then your 40s and then your 50s. And you start to realize that you've really got to take care of yourself, both your mind and your body. I love snowboarding, and I have a 19-year-old daughter, and she's been snowboarding. She's been skiing since she was 3 or 4, but she kind of got the bug for snowboarding probably around 9 or 10 years old. And now we've gotten to this point where she's been doing it for a decade. I've been doing it with her. And I remember this was a couple of weeks ago, closing out the season together. And I remember just riding up the lift with her, and here's my kids sitting next to me on this chair. We've been doing this thing together for a decade at that point. And as we get off, we sort of buckle up and start to fly down. And I'm watching her side to side as we're kind of like going with each other. And I'm just thinking to myself that I don't want this moment to end. I don't want it to end. And what a blessing it is, that I'm able to do this, to share this amazing passion with this person in my life who I just adore so much. But there's another side to this, which is, we love doing this exercise, this movement together. And at the same time, it is the type of activity that can really take a toll on your body. So you're constantly trying to figure out, okay, I'm asking myself the question, if I want to be able to do this for as long as humanly possible, I'm 55 now, 60, 65, 70, 75, maybe 80. Can you imagine me out there on the mountain with my daughter who would, be in her 30s or whatever it is. And we're still just kind of rolling side by side. How do I take care of myself in a level that would allow me to access that level of wellness, both of mind and of body? I know all of these things, and I'm not doing a lot of them. I was getting headaches and I was wondering what was happening, and I wasn't paying attention. And they just kept getting worse and worse and more frequent. I went and I was looking for a solution, and I'm looking for the supplements, and I'm taking all the preventative stuff, and I'm taking all the vitamins and the nutrients and minerals. And then I go to I find the local functional medicine doc, which I'm a big believer in. I go in there and we're going through a 2-hour intake and trying to figure out what's happening in your body here. Where's the inflammation? Where's this? And nothing's helping. There was one thing that I discovered that was at the root of it. And when I made one simple change, everything changed. The wake-up call for me was this. This is actually a guitar that I built with my own hands 3 years ago. And I take really good care of it. And the reason is because I love it. I built it with my own hands. You can see my name actually right on the inside in there, which is kind of a fun thing. I love the whole back. So when we came out here, people told me, it's really dry there. And the thing about guitars, which is kind of fascinating, is that you don't really know to look for this, is that I'll show you the back of it here. And if I kind of hold it up like that, you'll start to see there's a little bit of a rounding in the back and on the front. There's a little bit of a dish that happens with it. And what happens is, if there's no moisture in the air where this instrument is, that dish, all the moisture gets sucked out of the wood and it starts to go flat like this. And it's incredibly stressful for the wood and for the guitar. And if it happens on the top part of the guitar, the bridge where the strings come into literally gets pulled down, and the strings all start to sit against all of the frets, and you can't play it. So I'm hanging out here racked with headaches, and my guitar is in a case, sealed, hermetically sealed in a hard case. I have this device right here. I have a hygrometer in the case to measure how much moisture there is in the air in the case to make sure it doesn't get damaged. So one day I'm sitting here and I just open up the case and I pull out my guitar to play it. And I'm like, well, it's got to be in good shape because it's sealed, it's inside. And I try and play and it's not playable because the strings are sitting right on top of the frets. And I realize that even inside of a sealed case where I'm measuring the moisture in it, the air at a mile high of altitude is so stunningly dry. It's so stunningly devoid of moisture that it literally sucked the moisture through the rubber seals on the case out of the wood and the guitar and made it unplayable. And that was this odd light bulb moment for me because I'm thinking to myself, okay, if it is so dehydrated here in my environment that it did this to an inert piece of wood, what's that doing to me? And I'm thinking, we've been talking about inflammation and movement and nutrition and all this. Nobody ever actually wondered whether I'm just massively dehydrated, whether I'm like my guitar. And I've done enough study and research on proper hydration in the body that I know what it tells you. And one of the really big things that happens when you're massively dehydrated is you get headaches. And it all clicked for me. I started drinking water and it was like a miracle. So this is like, it's funny because oftentimes I think when we talk about wellness, especially advanced wellness, we're looking for the hacks and the miraculous things and the technology. And I use and have all of that stuff. And those are the optimizers. Those are the tweaks, right? Those are the extra like 0.5 to 1% better things. But so often, when we really want to look at what are the things that move the needle in a giant way, it takes us back to the basics. So for me, this basic was water. So I changed my water habits, my hydration habits. So I wake up in the morning, actually before I go to bed at night, I pour a cup of water, 12 ounces of water. I leave it next to my bed. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I meditate. And then as soon as I meditate, I drink 12 cups of water. And then I start drinking all day long. Within 48 hours, my headaches had almost entirely vanished. And when you think about wellness, one of the fundamental things that we tend to never think about is the notion of proper hydration. It was brought to my attention because I'm in a bit of an extreme environment at altitude. I'm a foot high. Next week, we'll be filming even higher in the mountains at 10,000 feet. And I've been at varying levels here. And what we don't realize, though, is you don't actually have to be at altitude for hydration to have a really powerful negative effect on your body or dehydration. Because when we breathe every single day, we exhale moisture from our body. And a lot of us aren't really thinking about that. We think, well, what do we learn in biology class in high school? Well, we inhale oxygen and we exhale CO2. The other thing that we exhale is H2O, is water. And in fact, the more we exhale, the more water leaves our body. And the drier the outside environment is, the lower the humidity in the air is, the more it leaves our body and doesn't come back in. It doesn't recoat the lungs. It doesn't get absorbed. If you exercise on a regular basis, if you go walking on a regular basis, that's fantastic. Do it. At the same time, when you move your body, your heart rate elevates. When your heart rate elevates, the data shows us the rate of moisture leaving your body goes up dramatically. So I want to share this with you because it's this aspect of wellness that we often don't think about. There's like throwaway lines on the internet, drink your 8 glasses of water, which like the research is showing is completely different for most people now. But I wanted to, what's the thing that we all hate in our inboxes now when somebody sort of like keeps emailing you and the email you and say, I'm going to bump this to the top of your inbox. I want to bump this to the top of your brain box right now because it's been in there for probably your whole life. But we haven't really paid much attention to it. We're looking for all the other more involved things, more complicated things. But this is so critically important to the point where a simple change has made a profound difference in my daily experience of life in terms of the amount of pain that I'm in on a day-to-day basis. And now it's just a part of my habit, and it has made a huge difference.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.